Hey everybody, welcome to Round the Twist, episode 265. It's September 14th, 2016. Welcome back. I'm here. It's been a week. Like, not in as, I know, okay. Yes, it's been a week since I've seen you, since you've seen me, but it's also been a week. You know, when you say, oh my gosh, it's been a day, like, it's been interesting, awful, challenging, it's been that kind of week. So a little bit of life catch up first. I kind of alluded to this last week, but it was still a little too fresh for me to talk about it. So a week ago Tuesday, my hubby, who also happens to work at the same facility I do, he and the other respiratory therapist got called in and said, hey, so effective immediately, we're letting you go and we're not having respiratory anymore. Complete blindside. They just did away with the entire respiratory department. They did give him a couple options. Either he could go over, we have a sister facility that we share the building with. We're with the same company. My side's the rehabilitation side. The other side is what is called long-term acute care. So it's kind of like a longer-term ICU where people might need to be on a ventilator breathing for them for a longer amount of time, or they've got massive wounds or things like that. Things where they couldn't come straight from the hospital to rehab because they wouldn't be able to do the rehab. At least not the rehab, the intensive rehab that my side of the facility does. So he was offered a position over there. However, it's night shift. So right now we're in the position we were 2 years ago when we moved out here, only flip-flopped, because when we moved, he was working days and I was working nights. Now I'm working days and he's working nights. So, yeah. Also, it turns out he was supposed to have orientation Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. He worked majority of the day Sunday on day shift, and then they're like, oh, shoot, this other person just quit. We have no one to work night shift. Go home, get some rest, and come back tonight. So he got like a 4-hour turnaround time, and yeah, 4-hour turnaround time, 2 hours of sleep, and he got like 2 hours of sleep in 27 hours. Not cool. So not cool, and I'm not going to go into why I am upset with the facility for doing this, but there's also been a few things that have happened since with the rehab side that have, in terms of his thing there, that I will not get into on here because, yeah, I'm going to start ranting, and this is not a life rant show. This is a knitting, crafting, oh, I need to go to a chiropractor show. No, it's not, and I need to go to the chiropractor. I do need to go to the chiropractor, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, how have you been? What are you knitting? I've actually got some knitting done. So last week, I finished the Jane hat, right? This was done. According to my notes, this was completely done last week, except for the pom-pom, because I needed to get a pom-pom maker. So I went and got a pom-pom maker. Drug the family over to Joann's one day and got myself a big butt clover. I think this is like a 4.5 inch clover pom-pom maker. If you've never seen one of these, they are awesome. I'm going to take this thing off though, since it's not mine. This is all washed, blocked. It smells very yummy now. Ready to go for the pharmacist at work. The clover pom-pom makers. So these have little wings that open up. It's two independent halves, so this will rotate, but you open them up, line them up, line up your little halves. You wrap this whole side in yarn. Once it's wrapped sufficiently, how big of a pom-pom do you want? You close it, snap it shut, you flip it around, you open the other side. So this has, here, so you can see, two separate sides. You fill those both with yarn. Close it up, snap it. Now, this is where the fun begins. You where this little divot is around here, you take a scissors and you go in there and you cut the whole way around. This is sandwiched together. You're holding it together with your hand, cutting all the way around, and now you've got ends sticking out all over. You might be thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? This is just going to explode into a pile of fluff. You take extra yarn, you shove it into that space in the middle, and you tie it firmly. Then, to get it out, you take the two halves on the white part and pull them apart. And boom, your pom-pom pops out. You trim your pom-pom down, you tie it to your hat. It's awesome. I have one of these that is very wee, very tiny, that I used for the baby booties that I made for the twins, for little wee, like 3/4 inch pom-poms on the I-cord ties for their baby booties. And now I've got a rather large one that will be fabulous for pom-poms for hats. So very exciting. This should be done. I'm actually going to, you won't see this hat finished because I'm going to do this afternoon, evening, as soon as I find where I put the rest of the yarn. I think it's in the craft room. Not sure, maybe. Whack a big old pom-pom on it and take it to our pharmacist tomorrow, who is a huge Firefly fan. Firefly Star Wars. He's an awesomely sci-fi nerdy geek. I love it. Pattern, excuse me. Pattern is the Jane Cobb hat by Heather Hill. It is a free pattern. It's basically a forum post over on Craftster, but the Ravelry page will link you over to that post so you can find it. The colors are, the yarn's Cascade 220 in, oh gosh, I'm got all crazy writing these down. 7824 for the orange, 7827 for the yellow, and 8414 for the red. I wound each skein into a center pull ball and held the yarn doubled and knitted on a US 10.5, which is a 6.5 millimeter needle. So Pom-Pom Maker bot, pom-pomming to commence today, I hope. The week's been crazy. I meant to have it done before now so I could show it to you finished. Not going to happen. You'll have to, hopefully, our pharmacist will let me take a picture of him in it when I take it to him tomorrow or Friday, and I can post that on Ravelry. So, yay. All right, second thing I was working on in here is my I'm a Rockstar socks. So I'm just doing a 72 stitch vanilla sock with a heel flap, top down, out of a Gale's Art Special Secret sock blank. It's her Superwash Merino Nylon Blend 7525. The colorway is called Rockstar Rainbow. This is one of her single knit blanks, so it is one single thread. She does have double knit ones, which is not double knit weight, it's still fingering weight, it's just 2 strands of yarn held together. Might notice it's not attached to anything. That's because this is what's left right now. And here's the first sock. Ta-da! And I forgot to grab a, no, it's not over here anymore. I forgot to grab a sock blocker to show you. But first sock is done. I meant to do 20 rows of ribbing. I ended up doing 21 because I was at the hairdresser and not paying attention. 72 stitches around. I used a US 1, a 2.25 millimeter needle, and you can tell where the stars came in on this other end. That's all these dark blips the whole way down about there to there. The pinks and the purples and the blues. I love them muchly. Yes, I know, it looks long. I have big feet. What can I say? US 11. Oh my gosh. The coffee is not San Marco. I know. I treated myself at Target yesterday in their little seasonal section at the front of, if you go into a super Target on the grocery side, there's always that little like sale area seasonal section. I don't know what else to call it. And they had some of their store brand Archer Farms coffee that was apple cider donut coffee. Oh yeah, not going to Rhinebeck, I had to buy myself a pound. It's only like $4.99 a pound, so I was like, what's the worst that happens? It doesn't taste good, I take it to work and I use it in the coffee pot there and everyone else can drink it. It's actually pretty good. I'll admit the first cup that I made I was kind of disappointed. It didn't have, it's got a very subtle sweetness to it. From the apple cider cinnamon donut flavor. So I put in just a little bit. I had part of a bottle of vanilla caramel coffee mate creamer left in the fridge, and I've been using that in the last 2 cups. Oh my gosh, so good. So, yeah, that's what the coffee is. Sock, though, this makes me so happy. So happy just looking at them. It's like, wow, socks you can see from space. Love it. Love it muchly. First sock done. Second sock not cast on yet, but I actually Kitchenered the toe and wove in the ends last night while the twins were in the bathtub. So as soon as I finished, Gabe looked at me and goes, "I get out now." So that's his signal. You better wash me, Mama, before you have a wet little boy climbing out of the bathtub and making a mess everywhere. So had to put stuff down in a hurry. I'm ready to start again. I'll be starting up here with what's left of the green that's fading into the yellow and orange. So yay! They're starting at roughly kind of the same spot. Obviously there's going to be more greenish tint to the top, and it was more yellow on this one, but love it. Gail, once again, fabulous. Good job. Love your sock blanks. Haven't had any issue with them. Third thing on the needles is my For Megan, hashtag For Megan, K-A-L, which was started by Birdleg Bags. This is kind of an in memoriam, in memory of Megan, who was the dyer of the Cyborg's Craft Room, who passed away very suddenly a week and a half ago. So if you want to join in, the hashtag, oh, and we have a frog out in the window. Well, sorry, I'm done. Obviously I'm in the basement again. I just saw movement and I'm like, what's going on out there? Little toad. The hashtag is For Megan, K-A-L, Formaegan, K-A-L, and you can, I used it as the name of my project over on Ravelry if you need to check the spelling. It's also up on Instagram. So I pulled out my lone skein of yarn from the Cyborg's Craft Room, which is her Asocolate base, the 75-25 Superwash Merino Nylon Blend. I'm using that for a lot of stuff. And the colorway is called Ain't No Party Like a Cyborg Party. And the color looks kind of, it reminded me of a funfetti cake when I first saw it, because it's just these like sprinkles and dots of color through the whole skein. It looks a little more concentrated, wound up in the ball to me. Like there's a lot more color here than I saw in the skein. In the skein, what I remember in my head looked a lot more white than this, so it looked more funfetti-ish. But the shawl that I'm doing actually came out much more funfetti-ish to me. So the pattern is Trillion by Martina Baim. It's part of her Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. This is an old pattern of hers. Obviously Hitchhiker is one. Trillion, Magrathea, can't remember the fourth one. There were 4 in the series. But this is what I've got so far. So it's got this little kind of net calculated little border along the edge that you're knitting on as you go. It's one of her elongated triangle patterns that will hopefully let me use up as much of this as I possibly can. And Megan did very generous put-ups of yarn. I think there's supposed to be something like 400, yeah, approximately 463 yards. The yarn is very thin. It's a lot thinner than I normally like to knit with, so I sized up to a US 3, a 3.25 millimeter needle, and I've had a little bit of progress, not, you know, a ton. But last night before I started knitting on it, it had been living down here, but with hubby working nights, we're not doing a whole lot of video gaming crafting time down here. So I've been upstairs watching crappy reality TV, and yes, I'm still working my way through America's Next Top Model. I don't know why, because I can. But before I started working, and I started working on this kind of late last night. I only worked on it maybe half an hour. I was able to tack on about an inch. I added a progress marker down here, so we'll be able to see from week to week how much I'm actually able to get done. So I'm going to move that up, kind of like how I did on my progression shawl. So you guys could see from week to week how much I was able to get done on that particular, there we go, that particular project. The knit along, craft along, whatever you want it to be, it's not a formal one, it's just kind of a everyone do their own thing. Basically honor a life lost too soon is what we're doing with this. There won't be any prizes, there's no official start or stop date. It's just if you feel so inclined, feel free to join us. I only met her very briefly 2 summers ago, well, 2015 at SSK, that's where I got this yarn. And yeah, she seemed really lovely, and I wish I could have gotten more of her stuff, but you know. Another one lost too soon. God, this year sucks in terms of people passing, so it's just an opportunity for everyone to reflect and enjoy her color sense. And, yeah. So, moving from maudlin topic to disappointing topic, I started Tara's sweater for this year, and currently the project name is called Disappointing Stripes. And I kind of wrote it out over on my project notes on Ravelry. It's not because of the pattern, it's nothing, just I've barely started this project and I've already had so many disappointments. Number one, disappointment in myself because I bought the wrong size yarn. I should have bought sport, I bought worsted. What was I thinking? I don't know. I just remember seeing the color going, oh, that's what I want. It's perfect. And my mom going, didn't you want a sport weight? And I go, I'll figure it out later. Worst idea ever. I suck at math. Suck at it. It's just my brain is not wired that way. I mean, I realize this is very simple math, but still I'm just like, So I had done my swatch, which I believe is in here somewhere, or not. Or not. Not. Nope. Okay. I had done my swatch. I'd used a US 6, a US 7, a US 8. Measured Tara, sat down with a ruler, looked at my swatch. I liked all 3 of the fabrics that it made. The 8 seemed slightly loose, but not awful. Ended up just for ease of math, deciding to use the US 7 because it was exactly 5 stitches to the inch in various spots in the swatch. I think that's my hubby coming home, so the dogs are barking, so I hear them upstairs. Sat down with the pattern, 5 stitches per inch, Tara's measurements, and went, okay, well, 5 stitches per inch, she's this big around, that would make this many stitches. Closest stitches around to that, looking at the pattern, was the 9-month size. So, the Playful Stripes cardigan by Alana Dakos, I'm knitting the 9-month size around because of my stitch gauge. And I think that's going to give her 2.5 to 3 inches of positive ease, so she'll have some room to grow. And then I'm knitting the 6-year, which is the largest pattern size, length. And I might tack some extra on because I'm just nuts enough to do it that way. So I actually started the pattern. I have done very little. I started it yesterday. I knit during nap time. And that's it. That's everything you get. So, knitting on a US 7, which is a 4.5 millimeter needle, I've gotten what's going to be my inside hem. I've got what's going to be the picot edge done. That's where, can you see all the little holes right below where the needle is? That's, without giving away the secret sauce, it's basically you fold up, you're doing a turned hem. So I'll fold this up and it will have, and it's hard to see because it's right there, right underneath the needle. Once I get a little further, it'll be easier. At the end, you fold everything up and sew it down. So you've got this lovely picot edge around the cuffs and around the bottom hem. And it's going to be really nice. So I did like 6 rows, something like that. I need to do another 5, I think, before I do whatever the next instruction is, and I'll figure that out when I come to it. So, disappointment number 2 number one was me picking the wrong yarn. Disappointment number two, obviously I've talked about this before, was the yarn itself. It is Lisa Souza in her Blueface Leicester worsted. The colorway is called Gray Blade for the main body of the sweater. And then I've got another, rather than doing stripes, I just picked a worsted weight yarn, same yarn, in a multicolor that I think will knit up really nice and be a good contrast to the gray. And that colorway is called Joseph's Coat. But I guess I was disappointed in the fact of the dye bleeding, which I've talked about. The response I got from the dyer herself, the fact that I had to set the dye on something that should have already had the dye set on it and thoroughly taken care of. The dye should have been exhausted and or completely rinsed. But I had to take care of that myself. I'm just mad at myself that I spent so much money and then I've had to do all this work and I can't just throw myself into the knitting, and it almost makes me resent the sweater, and I don't want to because it's such a cute little sweater. Or it's going to be when I finally get to it and finish it. So I've done the hem, the turned hem that no one will see. It's going to be on the inside of the sweater, and I've done the picot edge, and that's it. I'll hopefully do more this next week. So that's it for my knitting. Let me grab some coffee. Moving on, oops, to pokey things. We have progress. Yes, we do. We have a finished square. How about you? Oh, 7th grade cheerleading, yes. November's done. Finished. Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf dressed as Grandma are all finished. The pumpkin pie looks tempting with its little dollop of whipped cream, and that cottage looks so inviting with its little plume of smoke coming up. Snowflakes are falling, and we are moving on to December. So obviously I have moved the Q-snap, the frame, over. I need to finish this last little corner of border, and then I'll start on December, which, if I remember right, I believe is Hansel and Gretel. And that reminds me, I need to send that pattern over to my iPad. Thank you for reminding me. I'd say the thing that I find so cute about this is the wolf's glasses that he's wearing to hide as Grandma. Backstitched, obviously, but I didn't want to backstitch it one square at a time because I was afraid it would recede or the line wouldn't look straight. So I actually did, you can see, I just stretched the thread across and around his big eyes. So moving on, that is getting very, very close to done, and I'm so excited to be finished with such a big piece. That has been a huge chunk of my crafting life right there. If you're following along on Instagram with that, the hashtag that I've been using for all of my cross stitch is hashtag naptime needleworker. Whether I'm knitting, usually cross stitching because it's not something I can have out when the kids are up, because they tend to play with the thread and then lose my needles, and that's not fun. But feel free to use that if you craft while your hubby's doing lawn work, while your kids are napping, while they're at school, while you're on your lunch break at work. Feel free to join in. It's not just when you have little ones and the only time you can craft is when they're asleep. That's just why I started it, because that's, for a while, that felt like the only time I could do any crafting was when they were sleeping. So, moving on to Various and Sundry, we've got a couple of things in the Any Questions thread. If you have anything you want to ask me, please head over to the Ravelry board. The thread is stickied at the top. It's called Any Questions, and anything you want to ask me, please feel free. If it's not appropriate, I won't answer it. But figured we'd hit a couple today, even though I'm talking a little bit long. So first one is from Nibor, N-I-B-O-R 42. My questions are random. I hope they make you smile. You've mentioned in a few of the podcasts that you're a nurse. That's awesome! My questions are related to that. Number one, what's your favorite drug to give patients and why? And number two, do you have a favorite or funny story about knitting at work? Favorite drug to give patients and why? It depends on the situation. I like to see my patients get better. So whether it's not being able to pee for whatever reason. We've got a couple of different meds that I've given over the years, uricoline and Flomax. And I've seen that work wonders. And from someone having to be catheterized or straight intermittent catheterization, to being able to pee on their own after 3 days to a week of being on those meds is amazing. I don't even know what to tell you for drugs, because let me tell you, I give so many. It's ridiculous. Most of the time I'm looking at that going, name's familiar. What have I given that before? And then I have to go and look it up in the drug books that we have and go, oh yeah, that's that. I haven't given that for a few years. But so really don't have a favorite drug. Anything that helps my patients is good. Second question, favorite or funny story about knitting at work? Probably the funniest one I have, and it's not, I don't think it's really that funny, but you might find it amusing. When I was knitting one of the shipwreck shawls, the black shawls with all the beads around the edge, that netting edge that had, the crazy amount of beads. Every so often I'd have to, excuse me, I'd string like 9 or 10 feet of beads. Well, you can't just have that little chunk of beads, or that huge chunk of beads, keep pushing it down because it wears on the yarn. So I'd space it out and have like an 18-inch section of beads, and then I'd actually take this lace weight yarn at work, unwind it up and down one of our hallways at like 2 in the morning when no one was coming out of the rooms, back and forth a couple times, scooting the beads down as I go. And then once I got so far, I'd stop, I'd section off another 18 inches of beads, 3-4 more times up and down the hall, and I'd just be, as if people came on the unit or came walking over, watch out for the yarn, and they'd have to jump over it, and that's about it. I can't say I've really got a funny outside of that, but yeah. Hope those answered your questions. And then she also shared at work the other day she was teaching someone how to tie restraints to a band without thinking. I blurted out, do you knit or crochet? Because all we're doing is a slip knot. It made me smile thinking of you. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you thought of me. I don't tie restraints anymore because we don't have them at my current facility. So, next one is from Race Dog Mom. Love your podcast. I have a baby knits question. My first grandbaby's due in early February. This is the first baby in our family in nearly 30 years and most exciting. I know that you answered a question posted about baby sweaters a few episodes back. As I didn't know about our new baby yet, I didn't concentrate on the entire response. I plan to rewatch back episodes soon to get your take on baby sweaters. My question, as a new mom, can you tell me if booties or socks are more useful? And are knitted baby blankets actually useful, or do modern women prefer fleece or that new plush velvety fabric? I would not be insulted if my daughter-in-law did not want handmade things, but she won't say. I'd like to make a few things for baby Peanut, but I don't want to waste my time making an item that won't be used. Thanks, Race Dog Mom Sally. So, first question. Booties or socks are more useful? Neither. Personal opinion. Even the booties I knit for my kids, it's like I put them on them for their christening, and that was about it. Those kids could squirm their way out of the tightest little booties, the tightest little socks. I think someone had made me socks. I think it was, oh my gosh, my Canadian sister. Someone slapped me. I'm drawing such a blank on her name. Deb Barnhill, thank you. Thank you, brain. You pulled that out of nowhere. And then I'd put them on them, but they really quickly outgrew them. Or they were too tight. My kids never had chubby little feet. It's so hard to tell with babies because they come out all scrawny, and then some of them chunk up really fast, and others are like, yeah, no. So honestly, even though my kids were born in late fall and their early lives were through the winter, I didn't put socks on my kids. I didn't. They were either in little footy jammies, or I think they were called Sleep and Play, little zippered onesies that looked like little footy jammies. Or if they were in pants and a onesie, then we would have them burritoed up in blankets. So they looked like little baby burritos. To me, socks and booties, yes, they're cute, they're adorable, great for pictures, but practical use, didn't use them. Same thing with the little mitts for the hands, didn't use them. They were never tight enough on my kids' wrists, and so they never stayed on, and they got them off anyway, so I was like, meh, whatever. Are knitted blankets actually useful, or do modern women prefer fleece or that new plush velvety fabric? It's up to you. I got so many blankets, so many blankets. The ones that were the most useful to me were actually flannel, single layer flannel pieces that my mom bought and then used her serger to sew around the edge. And I think she made them like 45 inches square, if I remember right. It's big enough that you can actually get a good swaddle on the kids, and also big enough to drape over a car seat for warmth if you need to. And I've still got a stack of them about this deep. I need to find someone to give them to, because we went through so many. We could just unfurl them, lay them on the floor, and the kid could go on top of that. My mom also knit each of the twins a modern baby blanket from Mason-Dixon Knitting. Those were, even with them burritoed up, our house was a little bit chilly when we first got home, so we'd kind of tuck that in like their little rock and sleep little bassinets, tuck that in around them, like to keep their legs and feet warm. And otherwise we got like bigger quilts that were backed with that minky fabric that you're talking about, the velvety plush stuff. And a coworker at work also did like a double layer of fleece tie blankets that were very useful. The kids actually still use those kind of as their snuggle blankets out in the living room. So it's kind of a toss-up. I used all of them, but I found the most useful ones were the single layer fleece, because that was still something I could use in the spring and fall. They weren't so heavy, but I do still have their knitted blankets as well. So there you go. I hope that answers your question. Anything else? If you don't know if your daughter-in-law would use something like that, or if she'd think, oh, this is too precious, and tuck it away, honestly, unless you can get a specific answer out of her, I'm of the mindset I wouldn't waste my time. Grandma, great. If you want to, awesome. If you want something, though, that would be more useful, make sure it's machine washable. Make sure she knows it's machine washable, because trust me, there were nights I couldn't even stumble my butt down to the basement to wash a load of baby laundry. It was just like, grab another blanket, throw it on them, and just wad the one that got pooed on, peed on, puked on, spit up on, whatever. If it wasn't machine washable, honestly, even I, as a knitter, was like tucking it away and going, okay, we'll have this for pictures, and because I couldn't, at the time, well, I had two, but I couldn't take the time to hand wash everything that needed to be hand washed. So if it didn't survive the washing machine, I kind of went, oh well. But your mileage may vary. So hopefully that helped, Sally. I'm sorry I couldn't leave it on a more positive note. Just honestly, make sure whatever you do is machine washable, and if you can get a great deal with coupons on fleece or something at Sally's, and you know they're at Joann's, and you know there's a particular theme that they're going for, like our nursery was in Noah's Ark, so like those fleece blankets my coworker did. One had monkeys for Gabe with a coordinating fabric on the back, and Tara's had zebras with a coordinating fabric on the back. So if you can do something like that, save yourself some time, and it won't be any less, it won't be any less loved. It's still a handmade item, is what I can tell you. So I think that's it. Gonna cut this short, so hopefully the whole thing will go up in one compression. Yeah, until next week, everybody, happy knitting.